I'm not gonna lie, it was painful. Waking up to the realization that I was living my life for the sake of others, and that if death were to overtake me in such a sorry state, I would truly be a loser. I needed to change. That is when I happened to come across a quote on the internet by a man known as Abdullah ibn Mas'ud, who said, "It is more beloved to me to bite onto a burning coal until it cools, rather than saying upon something that Allah had decreed, if only it did not happen." And I don't know what it was, whether my state of mind or just circumstances around me, but I broke into tears like never before. It all began to weigh down on me all of a sudden. The weight of my sins, the time I had wasted, the potential I lost. But just like Abdullah bin Mas'ud had said, Allah had decreed it, and that he would rather eat burning coal than wish things had gone another way. Everything I had done in life brought me forth to this position where my connection with Allah sparked in such a vivid manner. I can still recall every thought, feeling, and emotion I felt in that moment to this day. The lesson you need to take from this part of my life is easy to listen to, but difficult to understand. It was the redefinition of success in my mind, where I used to chase money, looks, and fame as benchmarks of success. But at this point, I wanted nothing more than to please my Lord who had guided me. And this video here is to explain this redefinition of success and what it means for you going forward. Because the most fundamental principle to change your life is one that is littered throughout the Quran and Sunnah. It is deconstruction prior to reconstruction. I want you to remember that sentence. Deconstruction prior to reconstruction. This is why the kalima is 𝗟𝗘𝗧'𝗦. The negation came first, La ilah, there is no God. Then the affirmation followed, illallah, except Allah. This is why Allah describes the person who holds on to the firm rope in the Quran as فَمَنْ يَكْفُرُ بِالطَّاغُوتِ وَيُؤْمِنْ بِاللَّهِ فَقَدْ اسْتَمْسَكَ بِالْعُرْوَةِ الْوُثْقَى. The person who does kufr or completely rejects all false entities that try to claim to be God and then believes in Allah, they have truly held on to the unbreaking rope. The evidences are endless for this principle, but it makes sense as to why. How are you going to draw new things on an already filled up canvas? How are you going to bring in new items in an already filled up room? You must create space. There are far too many false ideas and concepts already ingrained in your head from years of conditioning. The wrong ideas must be deconstructed before the correct ideas are reconstructed. This is the way towards change that has been divinely taught to us, and this video will be no exception. We will deconstruct the wrong perception of success, then reconstruct the correct one. That is when we can truly begin this journey of change. So I hope you're taking notes. As soon as you desire to change your own behavior and begin to improve your own life, there is a neurochemical perspective where you are balancing your dopamine, serotonin, and oxytocin levels in order to maximize healthy behaviors, as people such as Dr. Andrew Huberman have successfully done and taught other people to do. Or you can take the philosophical perspective and spend your time in nature and solitude, developing your thoughts and ideas as Alain de Botton has done from the School of Life. Or you can take a disciplinary perspective and send your body through absolute hell like David Goggins had. See, when you want to improve yourself and then all of these perspectives are blasted at you all at once, it's very easy to get confused and then fall into what we commonly call analysis paralysis. A state of stagnation due to the plethora of routes that you could walk down to become a better version of yourself. However, if you've watched episode 0 of Project Ihsaan, then you know that nothing is inherently productive. Productivity is dependent on a goal that you have. If your goal is to be fat, then working out is actually unproductive, which is why it is only appropriate to start the first episode of Project Ihsaan off by defining the ultimate goal we all have, which is our perception of success. Let this line represent you in the present moment. This line here is everything you hope and desire to achieve in life. And right here lies death. Since the inception of the human species, how many of us have spent our entire lives laboring towards wealth, fame, and status? So many young people I come across imagine success to be that big mansion, the sweet cars, being looked up by everybody. How many celebrities overdose on drugs, jump off a building, or shoot a bullet through their skull? All that money, all that fame, and they want nothing more than death to overtake them. And now there is you wanting to walk the exact same path. Look, humans have always sought after these things, and yet, without fail, death has approached us every single time before we actually achieve those things, forcing us to leave those things behind. Listen and listen closely. The more you desire to become rich, famous, or of high status, the more tragic your death will be. This is because there is nothing more insufferable than letting go of that which you love. And if you spend your entire life cultivating and conditioning a deep and irreplaceable love for wealth, or love for fame, or love for status, knowing well that death will approach you, then you are setting yourself up for a guaranteed tragedy, where you spend your entire life developing an attachment for something that you inevitably must let go of. Please, do not tread down this path that so many before you have ruined themselves over. These things were never meant to be your purpose, because what you possess is temporary, but what you become is permanent. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in chapter 29, verse 64. This is Surah 𝗟𝗘𝗡𝗘𝗖𝗧 بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وما هذه الحياة الدنيا إلا لهو ولعب وإن الدار الآخرة لهي الحيوان لو كانوا يعلمون. That this worldly life is no more than play and amusement, but the hereafter is indeed the real life, if only they knew. And just like after a play, the curtains close and the masks come off, so too on the Day of Judgment will everyone's masks come off and their true selves are laid bare for everyone to see. So please do not measure success through any of these things, whether wealth, fame, status, power, beauty, or anything else pertaining to this worldly life. Leave this play. Too many have become slaves to these things and regretted it. So, now that the wrong definition of success that you've been conditioned so long to believe is deconstructed, what is supposed to be the true perception of success? The one thing that you should be striving for day in and day out. That sole thought that keeps popping in your head when you're tired and all of a sudden you are invigorated, ready to go 100% once again. Many people come and say it's Jannah. That's the ultimate success. But listen to this verse that redirects your attention to what is better. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وعد الله المؤمنين والمؤمنات جنات تجري من تحتها الأنهار خالدين فيها ومساكن طيبة في جنات عدن ورضوان من الله أكبر ذلك هو الفوز العظيم. Allah has promised the believers, both men and women, gardens under which rivers flow, to stay there forever, and splendid homes in the garden of eternity. And above all, the pleasure of Allah, and that is truly the ultimate triumph. You can notice in this verse over here, the pleasure of Allah is being given utmost priority. That for us is Fawzul Azim, the ultimate triumph. You see, the Prophet ﷺ during his final breath uttered words that help us understand the mindset that made him the ultimate model of success. He didn't say Jannah, Jannah during his final breath. Rather, he said, Allahumma rafiq al-a'la, Allahumma rafiq al-a'la. O Allah, the companionship of the Most High. O Allah, the companionship of the Most High. This mindset of always putting Allah first, remembering Allah in all situations, leads you to perform every action according to the divine guidance of Allah. So the ultimate success is the pleasure of Allah. The standard of success is our beloved Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and the measure of success is your obedience to Allah. This is what should consume your mind when you think of success. Once this redefinition of success has truly been implanted in your mind, you functionally become different from the rest. Literally. When a normal person is hit with a tragedy, they are led to absolute ruin. The stress is unreal, cortisol being released like no other, adrenaline pumping through their veins, thoughts become uncontrollable, and they panic. But the person that understands that this is a test from Allah, and true success or failure depends on how you respond to this tragic situation, A sense of calmness befalls you, and your first reaction isn't emotional or instinctual, rather it's rational and spiritual. You understand Allah has honored you with difficulty to raise your status in the afterlife and given you an opportunity to attain His pleasure. And that will absolutely change the game when it comes to how you're going to live your life going forward. Remember to always put the pleasure of Allah at the center of everything. So now that we're at the end of the video, I hope things are clear now. The first step to change isn't some habit or some special routine or pill that you take to change your life, because there really is no shortcut. The first step is one that happens in the mind. The shift of that one thought that keeps you going, that gets you up in the morning, and that is on your mind when you're trying to sleep. Unfortunately for many, that thought is either materialistic or hedonistic things such as wealth and fame. For you, my dear viewer, is much deeper. You don't stress and plague your mind over these shallow things because you understand Allah and His Rasul ﷺ have saved you from that tragedy. You only seek the pleasure of Allah, and that becomes your motivation to become rich, to become famous, and to benefit all of humanity with. The pleasure of Allah, the pleasure of Allah. Do not forget it. You can even repeat it on your tongues to remember it forever. Allahumma rafiq al-a'la, Allahumma rafiq al-a'la, O Allah, the companionship of the Most High.